Not letting me in. Seriously?
Hello, fellow Shades of the Underworld, and welcome to 10 details and references that you might have missed while playing Hades. There will be some minor spoilers ahead. I don't focus on any one topic too long, and none of these really pertain to the main story that much, but you might see some characters or some events that happen later in the game, so fair warning. Number 10. The Fate of the Furies. Over the course of Hades, you'll be fighting the three Furies, Alecto, Megara, and Tisiphone. However, Megara stands out from the other two. Unlike Alecto and Tisiphone, who evaporate into a flock of bats once you defeat them, Megara is the only one who sinks into the pool of blood. And looking at the House of Hades, this makes sense because she's the only one who ends up in the House of Hades. She's the only one permitted in the house, whereas the other two are not. So they evaporate into bats, and Megara, just like Zagreus, sinks into the pool of blood and ends up back at the house. Number 9. Pyre callbacks. Supergiant's previous game, Pyre, probably their best game, and not enough people played it, so you should go play it, has a few small references here and there for Hades. The first one that you should notice is when entering Zag's room, the lower bookshelf close to the bed has the orb that is the central gameplay element in Pyre. It's tucked away very dimly on the lowest shelf. But since that was way too short and way too quick of a reference, I'll throw in another one, which is that the theme, Last Words, which is the theme whenever Thanatos pops up in-game, is a remix of a Pyre song, Forbidden Knowledge. And that's the theme when you go into the training arena with Sandra. Number 8. The map of the Underworld is based off the map of the Abyss. When they updated the game and first showed off the map of the Underworld, Tartarus, Asphodel, Elysium, and the Styx, I noticed something. This looks a lot like the map from Made in Abyss, which is an anime from 2017. And it is fantastic, and I strongly suggest you go watch it. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the artists at Supergiant Games definitely watched this anime before. And lo and behold, I was right, because I asked Gen Z herself, the art director at Supergiant Games, at PAX West, and she confirmed with me that Joanne Tran, the environmental artist at Supergiant Games, did in fact base the Underworld map off the one from Made in Abyss, although obviously changed it to make it suitable for the game. She even confirms this over on her ArtStation. Still though, I thought it was really cool because honestly, I love maps, and I love both of these maps, and I totally want a poster of either of them. Also, I do like the inverse, that Zagreus is trying to work his way up the map and out of the Underworld, whereas the characters in Made in Abyss are trying to work their way down to the very bottom. Number 7. Vermin don't get sent back down. The last realm on your way out of the Underworld is the river Styx, and throughout the course of the game, many of the chthonic gods reference vermin and satyrs creeping into the Underworld. So it's heavily implied that they're actually closer to surface creatures than they are actual shades of long dead and defeated foes, and this makes sense even more once you start eliminating some of them. Because they don't disappear, they don't get sent back down to the Underworld, but they die. They leave behind corpses. They're the only enemies in the game that leave behind corpses are the ones at the river Styx, implying that they are in fact flesh and blood. Slightly disturbing, but again, a really good consistency to the world that Supergiant has built up. Number 6. Roll call. It's heavily implied that Hades is always bombarded with paperwork and always sorting out the shades and the souls of the dead. And if you hang around long enough in the House of Hades, that's exactly what he starts doing. He starts getting to work. If you wait around the House of Hades long enough, or if you go into your room and then come back to the main hall, Hades will have actually formed a line and start processing the shades and souls of the dead, granting some of them the requests they ask for, and denying others. It's a really nice feature, and if you're interested in seeing more of this feature, I made an hour-long ambient video of Hades doing exactly that. Number 5. Oh, you're approaching me? That quote is a pretty well-renowned meme and quote from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Everyone who's lived on the internet long enough remembers the panel in which Dio and Jotaro approach each other in the most fashionable struts imaginable. And this is referenced by one of Zagreus' Twin Fists boon that has Zagreus posing in almost exactly the same stance. For a weapon that involves a heck of a lot of punching, it's more than appropriate that it finds its way here. Number 4. The Socrates Shade. In the House of Hades, you'll occasionally be able to interact with a group of shades talking about how they died. One of these shades in particular says, "Not Socrates, just a fan," with the subtext that his cause of death was by hemlock. This is of course a reference to the historic execution of Socrates, in which he was forced by an angry mob who disapproved of his teachings to drink a cup of hemlock, the poisonous kind, the kind that kill you. Doesn't matter what century you're in, you always gotta watch out for those adoring fans. Number 3. Gossip in the Lounge. Similar to Hades forming a line in the house after you wait a certain amount of time, if Megara and Dusa are found in the lounge, you can occasionally hear them muttering and whispering to each other some gossip that they heard. Of course, most of these lines are indistinguishable, but sometimes you can make out a few words here and there about what they're talking about and try to infer what might be going around the House of Hades behind your back.
And?
I know, right?
Oh, really?
It's an interesting detail, and maybe someone can transcribe some of the stuff they say, although most of it is most definitely gibberish, but still, anything to hear the best girl in all of Hades, Dusa, obviously. Number 2. Hermes, Charon, and a frog. When looking at Hermes' character art in-game, you can see he carries many things on him in a satchel bag, one of which is a tiny little frog. That seems a little odd, but also very specific. Now, this could be a complete coincidence, but after doing a little bit of research, I came across a play called Frogs, first performed in 405 BCE, written by Aristophanes, a Greek playwright. And while actual frogs in the play aren't featured super heavily, despite the name, one of the main characters is Charon, and as he's ferrying Dionysus around in his boat, there is a small excerpt where he mentions the songs of frogs, and at one point, Charon starts imitating the songs of frogs, and tries to communicate with them. And even Dionysus starts singing along with the frogs at one point. It's a pretty funny read, and I'll leave the link down below. Suffice it to say though, Charon has some form of connection with the frogs in Greek mythology, and since Charon and Hermes in Greek mythology as well as in the game have a very close personal relationship, it only makes sense that Hermes would be carrying a frog to give to Charon every now and again. Number 1. Sleeping like a rock. Now, towards the end of the game, you'll be granted permission to go into the bedchambers of Lord Hades himself. While rummaging around through all his capes and stuff, I noticed something. His bed, more importantly, there's 2 pillows on the bed. Okay, but the pillows are different. See, the pillow for Persephone seems like a regular enough pillow, but the one Hades sleeps on looks like a rock, and then it hit me, that is a rock. Hades literally sleeps on a rock, and these existed in history. Pillows, in some cultures at some points, used to be made out of rocks. There's a couple of well-known Egyptian examples, as well as some wooden examples from Egypt, but there are some rock examples from Mesopotamia and China as well. While I couldn't dig up any examples that were made from classical or ancient Greece, to be fair, Hades is way older than ancient or classical Greece. Also, he's a deity, so probably doesn't matter as much to him. Also, maybe this is the reason he has so many anger problems. Maybe he needs an upgrade. So that does it for my list of 10 details in Hades. Do you like the list? Did you agree with the list? Do you perhaps have more suggestions for maybe a future video I might do? Leave some comments down below, and I'll be sure to read through all of them. As someone who routinely tries to speedrun Hades, it's easy to miss a lot of these details, but When I take the time to slow down, I remember just how detailed Supergiant likes to make their games. If you like what you saw in this video, like, subscribe, and share it with all the other lost souls in the underworld. And as always, Bear out.
Come on up. Caught me a trout.
Having gained the surface once again, Prince Zagreus breathes deeply of the wildflowers, the roses and the like, among which one of them contains an allergen so intolerably potent that it causes this